So the DR comes with two amber reflectors either side, and there is quite a bit on the net about people taking them off and then getting a warning or a fine. And the Australian design regulations are, or rules as they're called, there's two levels. There's the federal level and the state level. So at the federal level, it does note that side reflectors are amber, non-triangular. Excuse me. I got this from the Ausrider site, but I've also looked at ADR 19, and so it doesn't actually specify if you have to have them or not. It's when you get down to the state rules that starts to say you need them or not. So the state reflector rules are they vary between the states, and that's where it becomes a little bit tricky, and the rules are always changing, obviously. So if you go to the state side reflectors, according to this site, they're optional on all motorcycles. So New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Tassie and WA, it does say optional, but Queensland said you must have them. Now just be aware that legislation is prone to change. All motorcycles that I think come into Australia now come with reflectors. You'll have seen them on the forks, and so you could take them off in WA, but if you get to New South Wales or Queensland, the police might be a bit more rigorous in their applications and fine you or give you a warning. I have heard people in New South Wales being warned, even though it's optional. Queensland definitely have them. And so the question is, if you take them off and then go on a tour, you're going to have a problem. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the big ones off on the top, and I'm going to create new ones on the bottom. So I've been looking for solutions to this. I want to get rid of these. And what I've come up with is I'm going to design something for the fork leg. I've seen some that you can actually stick on, but I don't like them. I think they need to be a bit more solid. And so what I'll probably do is design something for the fork leg thickness, and I'll mount them up here. So I've moved up my fork boots because of the Warp 9 brace, and so it leaves this space here. So I'll see if I can mount something there. So I'll design something to mount a reflector on the side, a small reflector on the side, and then I'll be able to get rid of these. So let's see what I can come up with. So here's prototype number one. It's a simple block, 30mm by 30mm by 10mm. I cut out a 2mm insert in the top to fit a reflector in, which I was going to glue in the cutout. And because I was learning, I made this on Fusion after downloading it for free. Because I was learning, I made all these fancy corners thing, which I didn't really need. But anyway, it's got a radius cut through the bottom, as you can see there, and that radius fits the fork leg, which is about 51.2mm diameter. So it's 30 by 30, a radius cut out to fit the fork leg. It's got a little cut out at the top here of 2mm, and then I've got these things here. I created tunnels for zip ties, so these go all the way through in the block, and you can thread a zip tie through, and they're about 5mm by 2mm thick. And then what I did was I just printed this on a 3D plastic printer and cut out a reflector to fit in there and glue it. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So here's the final product. This was 3D printed on a plastic printer. So basically I sent the file off to a mate who had a printer. He's printed this off. I then put metal ties through it, and what I did was I bought some large reflectors. So I bought these large reflectors and I cut them down to size, and so what I've got now is I'll glue these in, and these will be little reflectors, probably that way, on the fork, and I can get rid of the big ones at the top. So I'll glue these in, I'll take the big ones off, and we'll have a look what these look like. So that was quite a good solution. It's modern technology. I've never used 3D software before, so that was quite good. Okay, here's version 1 finished, and it didn't work. It looks pretty good on the side, but when I went to glue in the orange reflectors, there's an orange reflector, the glue went behind the reflector and it no longer reflects. So it looks like the only way these reflectors actually work is they have to have an air gap behind them. And in fact, when you look at the edge of one of these reflectors, it's actually got a raised edge on it. Don't know if you can see it there. And on this side, there you are. It's actually got a raised edge on it. So the reflector actually sits on this little raised edge of 2 millimeters. And then underneath, it's almost like an air gap. So it must be the refraction or the reflection of the air gap as the light refracts out of there that gives it its reflective qualities. And you can see here how that sticker would stick to the edge but leave the underneath empty. So the first one didn't work because I glued it into the mount. So that one's dead. So after the first prototype, I created a different prototype. I created a slightly bigger block. It's about 13 mil high. And then I created in the inside here, it's about 5 mil deep with a little 1 mil lip, and it sticks out about 0.5 mil, so I can clip the reflector in and then I can just glue it around the side. So it's a very similar design, 30 by 30, a radius cut out to suit the fork leg diameter, and then a cut out here to sit the reflector in, and then the tunnels for the zip ties as well. So a very similar design. I just changed the top a little bit for prototype number 2, and let's have a look what that looks like. So I redesigned the mount, so I made it a slightly different lip, as I said, and what I'll do is I'll fit the reflector inside and then run a little bit of glue around the lip. Now the next thing I'm trying to work out is what do I put in the bottom of the reflector, because obviously they don't like sitting on black, because usually they sit on white. So there's a white one there, for example, and I thought about putting some tin foil under it, so that would be pretty good. But I'm not sure. The tin foil will corrode, the white plastic will probably fade, so I'm not going to win whatever I do. I might go with the white plastic actually. The tin foil's probably not a bad idea, but I think if it corrodes you're going to have a problem. So I think I'll go with the white plastic underneath. So I'll cut 2 parts of white plastic, put it on the bottom, and then push this in and glue down the edge, and we'll take a look what that looks like. Right, leave it with me. There's the finished article. I've run a bead of super glue around the edges just to keep them in. I reckon they look not bad. What I'll run is I've got these black steel ties. So when the super glue's dry, I'll run them through and attach them to the fork legs. So let me just leave the super glue to dry there, and then once it's dry I'll get on and attach them to the fork legs and show you the final product. I'm quite pleased how they've ended up. Super glue's a bit dodgy as I've gone around the edges, but it's good enough for this. So let me finish this off and I'll show you what it looks like on the forks. So I'm going to mount the reflectors here on the forks because I've moved my gaiters up to fit the Warp 9. It's worth noting as well, I've got this stuff called, you can see that, paint guard. So you can apply that to your bodywork and it protects your bodywork. It's like a thick PVC sort of film. So I've wrapped it around the fork there so the fork doesn't corrode under the reflector. I've also applied it all over the body. So I've got it here, for example, to stop chips on the frame. And I've got it down the sides and the swinging arm as well. So it's pretty good stuff. It's expensive as hell, by the way. But I thought I'd wrap it around there just to give the fork some protection under the reflector. So let me get them on and I'll show you what it looks like. Right, there you are. New amber side reflectors. So I'll take these ones off. I'm actually thinking about getting a safari tank. So the safari tank, you have to take them off anyway. And there's the new side reflectors on the side of the bike. I had to do it with 2 zip ties because the metal zip ties, I couldn't get my tool in to tighten them up. So that was a bit of a faff, but they should be okay. I don't actually like using zip ties because they go fragile in the UV. But anyway, there's the new side reflectors. Original brackets, the big brackets will come off. And I'll still be ADR compliant around Australia. I reckon that's worked out pretty well. So thanks to Andrew for helping me print them out, 3D printer, and that looks pretty good. And there's the front end all cleaned up with the top reflector off. I reckon that really cleans the front end up and gets rid of that big reflector there with the bracket. And now I've got a little bracket down here, which is pretty good. And it's actually not sticking out too much. The Warp 9 brace sticks out actually further than the reflector. So I reckon that's worked out pretty well. So I'm compliant. Nobody can complain I'm not compliant to a side reflector. And that cleans the top end up. So if I get a safari tank, I've got my reflector off already, so that makes life a lot easier. So another job successfully done. I'm pretty pleased the way that worked out actually. Thanks for watching.